Welcome, everybody, to the Kinesio Outdoors podcast, where my goal is to educate you on how to safely enjoy exercise indoors and outdoors, inspire you to become experienced in life outside, and encourage you to live a more active life closer to nature. Today on the podcast, I have Eric from KaptureGear. Thanks, Eric, for taking time out of your day to join me. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm pretty excited about this podcast. So for those of you that haven't seen, check out my YouTube channel. I've got so many gear review videos, and I'm really excited to talk about what you've got here, Eric. So why don't you go ahead and kind of let everybody know, just tease a little bit about why you're here. But let us know kind of who you are, maybe job, family, friends, things like that. Kind of give everybody just an idea of who you are.
Sure. So my name's Eric Christensen. We're on here for Capture Gear, but I live in southern Utah. I've been in the outdoor industry my whole life, from uh, managing sportsmen's warehouses to outfitting. I've always had a tie to the outdoor space, and so right now, just getting Capture launched. We launched in early November, late October, I believe. So it's brand new. We're kind of getting all the roadblocks removed so we can get this thing flying.
That is super cool. We can talk about sports warehouse and all that stuff as much as you want, but the outfitting side, I think I've seen a little bit of that on Instagram. So when I've seen your post, I knew you were either Arizona or Utah.
Yeah.
You pretty close to the border there.
Yeah, right. St. George is right by Vegas, like 2 hours north of Vegas.
Okay, sweet. Yeah.
We're like a desert. I mean, there's mule deer, there's no elk, but there's used to be phenomenal mule deer hunting. It still is pretty good, but it just fluctuates with tags, and
Yeah.
we're growing like crazy and habitat loss and all that stuff. But this is still the desert, so mule deer's our primary big game animal.
It's funny you say that. I'm gonna interject with my own anecdote real quick. I just applied to a job at Utah Tech University just a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
Pretty excited to hear about that one.
yeah, yeah. That's a growing school for sure. My kid just finished the I have a boy that's just graduating, actually just graduated last week with an automotive. So he
Oh,
just,
that's super cool.
yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So, I mean, so you said you've been in the hunting industry your whole life. So how did that start? I assume you had someone that kind of mentored you or inspired you. How'd that get going for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in Wyoming. My dad worked for the Forest Service as an engineer, so we were always out in the hills, and he had some outfitter friends that did a lot of fishing and guiding and stuff, kind of horseback there in Wyoming, and so we were always with them. But as a kid, I grew up catching crawdads and selling them to them, and when shed hunting wasn't really famous and I didn't know what it was, you'd go out and you'd fill up a truck bed in an afternoon there in Wyoming, and you'd get a little bit more, maybe 10 cents. But that's really how I cut my teeth. And then, but we were always on the mountains, and I've just always connected, uh, just being on the mountain. I just kind of love the solace and driving myself nuts with my own thoughts, but just being in that atmosphere on the mountain is what I've just always loved it.
Yeah, super cool. That's something to be said. There is something to be said about having a really cluttered mind and then being outside and somehow you feel like it's less cluttered and you somehow have this clarity and all you did was just change your location, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you there. Outside is a much needed break when I need breaks from my studies or my research. So
Yeah. So,
go
so
ahead,
getting
sorry.
into guiding. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, please. That's what I was going to ask about next.
Yeah, so getting into guiding was never really anything. Even though I grew up with outfitters, it was never like, "Hey, I want to go guide today." My friend, I ran into a guy. Actually, I was filming a big buck here in southern Utah, and this was back in high school, like right after high school, so early college days. And we kind of hit it off. And he was guiding and asked me to take a couple guys that were coming on archery hunts. And so I agreed to that. And then from there on out, it was just I loved it. I love being out there showing off your skills. I mean, I'm pretty limited on skills, but killing elk was kind of is one of them I really fell in love with, and so that's really what started it. And then it kind of went off and on. I did that for a while, and then I started a career with Sportsman's Forever, and so the guiding was limited, but all my time off, I was still guiding and outfitting. And then my buddy runs a big service out in Ely, Nevada, and I went out and would help him in the late hunts, and so it just kind of evolved into something that I never really expected to do, but just loved it.
Yeah, that's cool. My experience with guiding, I only did it for one season. I was an assistant guide or whatever the official title was, it doesn't matter. But I'm sure you got the same enjoyment of taking people who, so I live here in Western Oregon. I'm like, oh, I'll just go elk hunting. And they're like, oh, I've been dreaming about it for 5, 10 years. And this is so cool. Every day is so cool to them, right? And we're like, oh, kind of take it for granted, right? So I bet you had some fun experiences with that, especially it's with some big bucks and things like that.
Oh yeah, you meet a lot of really, really good people in that industry, and it's funny because the hunting industry is actually really small. When you start talking to people, this guy knows this guy, and this guy knows this person, and so it's really a tight knit community. But um, it's what you if you love to do it and you love helping somebody fulfill a quest or a dream, it's there's no better service.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun. So, you mentioned it earlier, you kind of teased it. So let's dive into Capture Gear. You can start the story wherever you want to. I kind of know where it ended up, but I'm curious to hear more about the story.
So I've always had probably what you would call an entrepreneurial mind. I've just never really pushed it hard until about 2015. So I was in Nevada taking a hunter out, and this is an older guy that couldn't really shoot or hike. Um, and so part of this is on me. We had a gun. We got him a different gun that the outfitter had that was you just kind of range and dial the dope on the scope. So we had finally found a bull after 6 days of hunting it. We were trying to kill, and I dialed the scope wrong. So we're set up, and Phone Scope had just came out with the new Phone Scope pioneered the digiscoping space, um, and so that's where you take a smartphone and you couple it to an optic, and you can use your smartphone to film with. So they really pioneered it, and I actually was friends with them and used to rent the owner's dad's cabin on the Beaver up here in Utah when I guided. So I got to know them pretty well, and it was a brand new case, and it was a new attachment that would slide in from the top. And I just put on the elk, and we shoot, and because I screwed it up, he shot low, and so it's chaos. And we're trying to get back in this elk, and I go to grab my setup, and my phone had slid off and broke on the ground, and so I was pissed, and it just wasn't. Maybe I didn't put it in the attachment right or whatever, but so the whole hunt was we didn't kill the elk, and my brand new phone just broke. So driving home from Nevada was when the idea came out in 2015 was to couple magnets. And so I pursued that for a while. But I don't come from money or have money. So this was something I had to get funded or find partners. And so I went through a couple of different lanes to try and get this off. And then I found it through ironically, through guiding. I was back in Idaho with a friend who had some private ground. So we would guide. He was in Idaho, it's different. You when you guide in Idaho, there's areas. So as an outfitter, you're allocated a certain area. No one else can guide in there, so you're kind of secluded, and it gives you a little more security. So he was buying a new outfit and asked me to come run it and kind of set it up. And at the end of that first season, he had some gun manufacturers come cow hunt on his private ground in central Idaho. So I met Kevin and Dave. They're Gibbs Engineering. They're engineers for firearms. And so obviously we're talking, we hit it off, and I'm like, hey guys, I got an idea that I've been trying to get off. You guys have a machine shop. So, and then we just started talking from there and evolved. And so we applied for the patents and all that stuff with them. So it sucks because it's 2014, almost 20 or 2025 in a couple weeks. And so it's taken me 10 years to get this product to the market. So Capture is with a K, and what it is it's a system that we kind of took all of the frustrations of the current market. We hated the cheap plastic cases, we hated the oversized cases, we hated how they attached. I shouldn't say we hated, we just didn't like it. And so there was definitely room for improvement on how to do it. And so with the higher end optics, you can actually remove the eye cup, and
Hmm.
so it's a threaded on piece. And so we actually take that off and buy them from the factory and swap out the inside, um, and then you thread it back on so it looks and functions like a normal optic. For optics like what you have, Athlon and Vortex, the eyepiece doesn't come off, so we have a taped ring that goes onto your optic, and that ring doesn't attract any rocks. It's not magnetic, but that's what attaches to your optic. And so our system has really evolved into like a custom case. So we started there. So we wanted a case that when I'm not out in the field, I don't have to swap out. The other systems
Eric, I'm gonna
for
interrupt you real quick. Sorry. So for everybody who doesn't know, either type into Google and look at this, or if you're watching on the video. So this is the piece that Eric's talking about that I added. And you could explain more. I just wanted to just so people can see and get an idea. Essentially, it's a metal ring that goes inside the eyepiece, and it's got 4 notches for alignment every 90 degrees. And then they've got them set to specific eyepieces of different binoculars. So sorry, I wanted to just, if people don't know, they can see that real quick.
yeah. So that what optic model is that again? The Athlon what? The
The Midas
Midas.
G2 UHD,
Yeah.
something like
So your eye relief still operates like normal. It
that.
doesn't
Perfect.
interfere.
Yeah.
You don't notice the ring when you're glassing.
Nope.
But anyway, so we started with the case. So for digiscoping, when I was guiding a lot, obviously you're filming a lot. That's kind of the hallmark of the guiding is being able to see all that and capture it, bring it home, and show everybody. But the when you're most of the cases when the adapter doesn't come off or they have a bulky attachment, so you had to swap out phone cases for your regular everyday case. So we spent a lot of time, and it caused us probably a 6 month delay this year to get launched. But it is a much better case. It's an everyday case with higher grade magnets. I mean, we kind of went through all the features that we wanted, and then we added a frame for our adapter to slide on. And so then you go to the universal adapter, works with all of our phone cases, but it's completely removable from the phone. So
Yeah.
you can
So I'll have
detach it to the
everybody
side of
see.
your pocket. Yeah.
So this is, what is it? 2.5 by 2.5.
Somewhere
Two,
around there.
two, yeah.
What that it does is it just allows you to actually select your 1x or your telephoto on your different cameras. So you're not stuck with one lens. You can actually film on your 1x or go to your telephoto on a couple of the models. And then it also accepts all of our different mag rings. So we have 5 different mag rings. That Midas is the size 2, but each optic size we just kind of verified manually which ones. And so 1 through 5 depending on your optic. So in some setups like a BTX and a EL, you can almost use the same setup on both. Like I just set up my buddy Jeremy. He's Muley Photos on Instagram. He's like lives in the mule deer mecca over here in Kanab, and he has a older Zeiss Diascope and an NL Pure, and so his is a size 3 on both. So he only needs the setup. He doesn't need different mag rings. He can go from his NL straight to his Diascope without changing one thing. So there is some advantages with that modularity on depending on setups. And then that just goes to that eyepiece. We wanted a slimmer profile. One thing when you're digiscoping, man, is when you're on a target, and if you don't, I don't like looking through my adapter. So that everybody on the market has an oversized adapter,
Yep.
which means they put their adapter that attaches to the phone on the outside of the eye cup. And by sliding it on and off, I've ruined a couple of rubber eye
Oh, yeah.
reliefs because you're constantly moving on your optic. And then if it's not flush, if you're at an angle, then you get a lot of vignetting. Your picture's not solid, and so that was one of my biggest frustrations, especially on the mountain. You're trying to catch a small glimpse of an animal, either cresting a ridge or when you see him, there's trees in the way, and so if you want to capture that when he's in the clear, if you're not on target and you try and slide your adapter on, it throws your scope off target, and it was so frustrating. So we wanted to eliminate that, so you didn't have to have an adapter that slid on and off every time you want to film. So with Capture, you just get up, you set up your spotting scope, and you get your alignment set how you want, and then you start looking. Once you find something, you just pop it on, and you're dialed, ready to go.
Yeah, and I want to show everybody real quick. So, I have it off my phone case right now, but this is the adapter, and then this is that ring that Eric was talking about. So this is where I could adjust it for the different size eyepieces. Comes out super easy. But when he's saying you slap it on, all you do is literally get it pretty close, and then it's on. It's super fast, super easy. And then to take it off, you just pull it right off. This eyepiece is never going to be damaged because of this. So that's kind of what he's talking about. Um, so I want to touch on a few things there. The first one I want to touch on is when guiding, it's not only important to have photos like for you as the guide, but when clients come in and they don't know what to expect, you can show them, hey, we've got bucks 1, 2, 3. this is their size, 180, 193, 178, whatever. And then you can say like, okay, this is the caliber of deer we have. You're saying you want 220? We've got 180s. This is what they look like. And you can kind of give people a pretty good idea as well as it gets them excited, things like that. They can kind of do some window shopping or say like, oh, that's not really the deer or the elk I'm after. I'm after something a little bit bigger. And you can kind of communicate with your client without wasting time in the field, right? Because you could waste a day or two just trying to find something of a caliber that they're saying is actually below what it is that they're after. Um, what are some other kind of uses of it as well? Can you use it for like marketing at shows, right? Kind of showing the quality of animals you guys have, things like that. So I feel like it's really crucial for guiding is having images and videos of the animals that you're guiding, right? You're hunting.
Oh, unquestionable, man. I mean, it's part of the process and it's part of the enjoyment of going out and getting that. I mean, like my friend used to, when I first started in the industry, my friend, we actually made a couple hunting videos, but when we started making the first video, he was already filming for an outdoor show. So he taught me a lot, but he's like, we have one rule in when we're filmmaking is if it's not on video, it doesn't exist. It's not true.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because it's and to your point, like back in guiding or even personal, if you're scouting heavy, um, memories fade and memories emotions can adjust memories. And so if you can sit and get content, film something that you're wanting to harvest or as a guide to show a client, then you have proof. You can just go back and be like, oh, he's not as big here or here. You can really break it down and dissect the animal, or you can, hey, he's bigger, or this is exactly, what you're looking for. So video is king. And so there's so many, aspects, wildlife watching of all kinds to capturing your hunts. I mean, I have a social account that I built for capture called Kill Shot Central, and all it is kill shots. And so you just catalog those memories. I mean, that's what we all love, especially as you get older. Memories are so important in life. So there's a lot of aspects to using the setup. I mean, the binoculars have been doing really well, and so you can actually take it. I have little kids that played flag football, so we put it on our SLCs on a tripod and used it. It was
Mhm. That's cool. See, and I like that you're mentioning all the different uses for it because people see this as a hunting tool, right? But like you said, you can use it for wildlife viewing, sports viewing, just so many different things. Whenever we go to national parks, that's my wife's thing, national park. She has the picture. It's not here, but it's going to be there pretty soon. And every time she gets one, scratch off with a quarter kind of deal. And
yeah.
every time we go, I have to carry my binoculars and I have to carry my digiscoping. And I actually got her this system for her phone case so that way she can carry it because I'm getting tired of it. Um, and we saw mountain goats this past summer. We've seen two black bear cubs wrestling, and we had to do the old, and I wish this was around at the time. We had to do the old phone and binoculars, kind of get it lined up, and it was not good quality video, but we got some of it. And those are memories that we're always gonna have, and we can look back to it, like, and then seeing that's gonna remind us, oh, remember on that trip when blank happened, and there's a lot of cool nostalgia that you can do with it outside of recording, like you were saying, your kill shots and things like that.
Well, it's funny because what you just did is where everybody starts.
Yep.
Everybody tries to hold their phone up to their optic, and then that's when the light bulb usually goes off. Is like, oh, there's got to be a better way, and then you start looking into different systems. But everybody, I remember
Yeah.
starting that way when Time's Up came out with their first setup. We used to buy these little Nikon D20 cameras. They had a little zoom on it, and you
Hmm.
go to Home Depot and buy these rubber couplings, and you just find one for your spotting scope, and you glue one end onto your Nikon and put it over your spotting scope. So that's how it kind of evolved, and then people got smart about it and started manufacturing and making it so it lines up perfect every time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, so there's one thing that I wanted to ask you, and you kind of mentioned this, but so you mentioned why you wanted to make a digiscoping product, but I think you kind of didn't touch on this as much as I think you could have. So there's a reason that I, as the average Joe, currently own three different digiscoping brand digiscoping systems. And it's because each one has its strengths, but none of them were exactly like V1, right? And each one of them kind of had their holes. I don't want to go through all that right now, but I feel like every issue I had, you guys answered it and I didn't have to ask you. So that tells me one, you use this stuff, you live and breathe this stuff. And it sounds like, what is it, Muley photos? I'm pretty sure I've seen his Instagram. I think I messaged him about like some sweet, pretty sweet bucks. Does he have the double left side antler buck on his Instagram?
I'm sure he lives there in Kanab. I mean, Jeremy's a mule deer nut, dude.
Yeah.
So there's a deer breathing by his area, he's probably seen it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you and other people, you know exactly what you're looking for. And before this went to market, yeah, it took 10 years, but when I go through and do review videos and things like that, I want to look for something wrong with the system and I can't find it. My one complaint was that you don't have all the phone cases yet, but you just started, so obviously you won't. That's not how business works, right?
Yeah, I mean, a little insight on that. So we're, as I told you, where the 16 Pro and Pro Max are gonna be coming out in
Yep.
February. The Samsung, I hope, will be ready by turn of the new year by January. We're testing that now. The problem with it, man, is you have to make these molds and stuff to. So let me back up. So the problem with digiscoping, we wanted to create something that you could use your case for. And
Yep.
our first test with our first system, we thought we were ready, and we sent it out to a pile of people, and there's such a wide range of phone cases that the
Mm,
plate has to adhere, and then I also have to let the customer set it up, and if they don't set it up and the alignment's off, then they're gonna blame me, and then
yeah.
so we started looking at taking all that feedback, and we pulled the plug for another year. It's hard, man. I mean, this was a this was a long time to get here, but we pulled the plug and made it better. But the reason we make our own phone cases is because that adapter, when it slides and locks in, it's right on the camera. There's no adjustments. It lines up perfect, and so you kind of have to offset that uh, purchase of the new phone case with that feature. But again, we wanted to make an everyday case, and I mean, it is an everyday case. It's super small. It's got a rubber oil soft feel, so you can use it every day. But when you're ready, you just slide it on. But so that's why we. So anyway, so then up to the phone cases, what's hard is you have to. These molds are expensive, and then the huge MOQ you have to produce. So we looked at all of the data that we could, and those are the four best-selling models. And then the delay causes to be behind on the 16s, but we're already getting those molds ready and going, and so those will be ready. But those are the best-selling models, and I wish I could accommodate all of them, but some of them, we if we did the molds and the minimum purchase, I'd have them for my kids' lifetime. They'd never sell. Like so,
Yeah.
there's a give and take, and um, again, we as a company, you want your net to be as wide as you can for as many sales as you can, but at the same time, you have to be within your know your limitations.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so that's one of the hard things. My mom owned a cafe, and people will tell her, "Oh, you need to add this to the menu, add that." Pretty soon, the menu they want is this big, and really they're only going to buy this little bit, right? So then you have all this stuff that with food, it's perishable, so it's just garbage. It just rots, and you just have to toss it, right? So I definitely understand what you're saying there. Um, like you said, you're already working to continue to grow, which is awesome. One thing that is challenging is this is a universal adapter. So you, on the product development side, have to figure out how to make your universal adapter fit every single phone, right? And that's something that a lot of people aren't going to think about. They're going to think, oh, why don't they have more phone cases?
Yeah.
Well, they have one adapter, which is intentional, so that way their system is really easily to use across multiple phones and optics, but it has to be perfect, like you just said. Otherwise, you have a bad product according to the customers, when really it's just so many phones are so different. So I definitely see the challenge of that, and I commend you for trying to tackle that.
Yeah, and we're at the mercy, right? Like if iPhone changes their camera
Oh,
locations or
yeah.
do something different, then we're at another loss for another adapter and stuff. And so it is a unique problem that we got to tackle, and that's our best solution right now. And our next gens will be improved, and because we all of us are kind of like my biggest problem in life is when I'm driving, because then I'm thinking about all kinds of crap. And as somebody that's got that kind of mentality, there's 1,000 ideas that suck, and then you got one good one. But the thousand at first, you're like you get excited and you're thinking, but it's so we're always innovating. We have some new stuff that will be coming out, but we got to get this established. So those do present some problems that we'll have to address and face. And then there's so many variables, right? There's markets.
Yeah.
What's weird is the iPhone market out in the West is like 7 to 8 to every Samsung sale. But if you go east of the Rockies, it's almost 50-50. So it's a weird diversity. But back east, the whitetail crowd isn't as they don't use spotting scopes like we do.
Yeah.
So it's those are all the challenges. If you've ever wondered as trying to produce them and bring a product to market, those are all the things that you have to kind of think about. Otherwise, you could just spend a lot of money and piss some people off and never get anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it. So I'm gonna go through what my issues were with other digiscoping systems, and then if you want to touch on kind of, I know you have the same issues, but if you want to kind of touch on how you developed your system to combat those issues. So one of my first issues was the giant bulky phone case. You already kind of mentioned this, but is there anything else you want to add to the phone case that you guys have developed other than it's just an everyday normal phone case?
I mean, ours we're gonna. I mean, we're the most expensive on the market, and we're gonna put our own stamp of the best system on the market, and with that, we're gonna have an unconditional, no questions, lifetime warranty. So any issues that you have, we're going to take care of it. But all of the current systems that I'm aware of, it's just a that require a custom case, or just they're made out of cheap plastic. I mean, let's just be real, and so things when things are cold dropped, I mean, there's different things that come out, but that can happen. But that's the big difference. Ours is a TPU, a really high grade material. I mean, we went through this thing for almost a year, so that's the big difference.
So I have a question. I'm going to expand a bit. One of the other brand phone cases caused my phone to overheat when to be fair, I was charging it, listening to a podcast, and running maps. It
Yeah.
was 96 outside. It stopped charging at 80%. But the AC was blasting in my car. Do you feel like you're going to have similar issues? It's hotter where you're at than where I'm at here. Have you seen any issues with that? Or
Not yet. I mean, we actually upgraded the magnet. So the MagSafe magnet is a certain requirement coming from Apple and kind of their standard. And ours is a higher G force, so you have a higher pull, and
Mhm.
it's a higher heated rated magnet. So it
Okay.
should handle the higher temps. But if your car is 120 in the summer
Yeah.
here in
Yeah.
southern Utah or so, I mean, I don't have data to back it up, but you shouldn't have any overheating issues.
Sweet, yeah. That was something that I ran into. Um, Most people, when they're hunting, they aren't doing multiple things and charging, right? So, try to be fair, but that is something that I ran into that I would like to not run into. And then I do like that you can make the phone case, I'm gonna say more sleek. So I'll put it this way. If I was out hunting, I would just leave this adapter on and I would just leave it on. As in, this isn't gonna be too big in my pocket, right? It sticks out 3/4 of an inch maybe from the back of the phone case. I would probably just leave it on. But if I'm really, really worried about it, let's say I've got like really tight fitting pants and I want it in my thigh pocket, I could just take it off pretty easily. And this attaches on with these nice little rails here in what, 2 seconds or less. And it slides to a click. So I think that's something that's really sweet that you guys did. I really like that. Now you mentioned magnet to magnet earlier, but actually, and maybe I could be wrong, it doesn't look like there's any magnets in this eyepiece here. The magnet is going to be on this ring adapter here. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. So
Okay.
the all of our iCup, all of our Knekt mounts, they're just the steel. That's just where your magnet couples to. So all the magnets are on the adapter itself, and each mag ring actually has 12 magnets, which is gives you a little more even pull versus our biggest competitor I think has four. So ours is
That's
more of
cool.
an even pull, so it gives you a little bit better G force to when you couple to your optic.
Yeah, definitely. And so everybody can kind of see, these are the 12 magnets. So there's three in each quadrant of the circle there. And yeah, that's something I noticed. Again, people shouldn't be doing this, but what I did is I just put the phone on the optic and then I just picked up the phone and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Nobody pick up your binoculars while
Yeah.
using your phone.
Yeah.
But in case something happens on accident, it's pretty darn strong. So that is something that I think is pretty neat. And I really like that you guys designed this so you can use your binoculars or whatever with the ring on there and that it essentially disappears. I really like that. That's something that bothered me. And I actually, some of my other ones, multiple other companies, I wouldn't use their product as much because I was trying to hunt and I was more worried about hunting than getting footage. And that time of putting it back off and putting it on and pulling it back off and things like that was really, really frustrating. So again, you guys answered that question. Um, how did you come up with that idea? Or is that something that you just thought of right from the get-go?
No, so when I first had this, as I was making some do-it-yourself prototypes, it was an over mold or an
Yeah.
over friction fit with a side clamp, so I could leave it on or
Hmm.
remove it, but it didn't slide on the eyepiece, and that kind of gave us some problems. And to be fair, I'll give credit where credit's due. My engineer partners, they actually so let me back up. So we had the over mold, oversized fit first, and then I was like, hey, that's kind of our generalized one. And what I really want to do is figure out a way to put it in the eye cup itself, because
Hmm.
it's and so during the R&D process, we scrapped the oversized and went we just Kevin and Dave Gibbons had enough foresight to see when they were looking at all the optics that there's a little metal flange between the rubber eye relief and all of the glass,
Hmm.
and they felt like there was enough room in there to incorporate that in. And so they just took what I wanted to do and just mastered it. So that's how it evolved to be inside the eye cup.
And that's something that I think is, I hope it's not underrated how great that feature is. I think that's something that people that know and that are really experienced with digiscoping are going to really appreciate that feature. To me, at least, that's a really big deal. That's something that's really darn cool.
Yeah, if you're new to digiscoping or thinking about getting into it, I mean, there's a lot of lanes. Like one other one that's pretty big is shooting. A lot of people like to film their long range setups. Their
Mhm.
shooting trackability. Your spotter can sit and see and give you call outs for your wherever your bullets hitting. But if you're not using capture and you want to have a quicker attachment, you need to leave your adapter on your optic, and most of them are big and bulky, and you can't really it can do two things. It can be interfere with your vision. You can't really use your eye relief if you're one of those guys that like to use your eye relief. And then putting it on with the gravity, if you put it on landscape, it could actually turn your whole eye cup. And then using the optic, like to what you said, some of them you can't even, you have to put your head in kind of sideways and cockeyed to
Yep.
look through your scope, and at certain angles, I mean, it's almost impossible. And so that's our biggest campaign, right? Is eliminating oversized adapters.
Yeah, and one thing that I've had, and you mentioned this earlier, I want to circle back to it, is if you have an oversized adapter, and I always have it on my right eyepiece, I don't know why, it doesn't matter. But what I actually learned to do is if I had these on my tripod and I went to put my phone on or put the adapter on, I actually was moving it, like you mentioned earlier. So what I would do is I would cover my left eye and put my right eye through so I could see and find it so then I could make sure I was on, and then my phone was already going to be on it. So that's kind of what I was doing. And with this, I don't know that I'm going to have that issue. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit more, but that was frustrating for me to experience, and I think you guys, again, solved that issue.
No, because it's magnets. I mean, if you put it on there forceful, you're going to move your optic. It's just inevitable. But once you get to used to it and you get it set up, so like the biggest thing is why our adapter allows you to have 360-degree rotation. So you could set up your optic and your phone could be at a 45, and you can just remove. Uh, I should grab my prototype. There's a little release button that you can release off the teeth from the mag ring and slide your optic in the position you want, and then let it
Talking
go and
about
it
this,
locks in.
right?
Yeah,
Like that,
you
yeah.
can actually and then set it, and then once that's set to your preferred filming angle, then now it's just a matter of just pulling it and putting it off. And so that'll speed up the process, and it eliminates that whole moving the optic when you're on target. But again, if you go shove it on there, it's
Yeah.
definitely going to move your optic. But the point is you just the magnets will couple to that really quickly, and then those 90-degree slots helps it just align. So that kind of solves that issue for that area.
Yeah, definitely. And I want everybody to understand. So I messaged Eric before I bought this because I was really excited to see it. I paid full price. I'm literally nobody special. I'm just a nerd, and this is my fourth digiscoping product that I've got in the last 3 years. I just really like this stuff. So any issue that I was having, and I've had issues and then, get something different and then see different issues and then get something different and see different issues. But again, I don't know, and I haven't used this enough. I've used this a couple times to see if there will be issues. Maybe long term I'll see something coming up, but I mean, you guys, I think you've had prototypes out for multiple years, right? So you've got quite a bit of data from quite a few of your trusted friends who are guides and um, photographers, things like that, right?
Yeah, like I said, we were trying to be out in 2023, and we just our first system that we sent out to everybody. As you're excited. I mean, it's a huge unveiling for me. Is this took 8 years to get here, um, and then the competition propped up. There's they launched, and it kind of takes a little bit of your excitement away. And
Yeah.
but we regrouped and sent it out to a bunch of really. I'm just fortunate with my guiding and industry connections to have a lot of really guys that do this full time, and I'm one of those guys that it's kind of weird. I actually love criticism. I don't you don't like to hear your baby's ugly, but you can't change it if you don't know. Like, and if people don't tell me, hey, this was an issue. And so fortunate for us, a lot of guys said, hey man, this is something that we're having issues with, and we didn't see it on our end. But as a consumer, we're like, okay, well, this is a problem we need to address. And so we actually had pulled everything and retooled. And so that's how this phone case came out and the universal adapter. And hopefully, if iPhones don't change, then our your legacy phone models will be compatible with it. So it's definitely been a if you don't listen to your consumer and give me feedback, and I want to hear from everybody. So I definitely want to hear if there's an issue. And like I'll be honest, one of our adapters right now is it's a little bit loose when you put it on the phone case. There's a little bit of a rattle, and the reason we did that is we don't know. I mean, our testing kind of led to that because if you get a little bit of dirt in there, when tolerances are tight and you can't get it on, I don't want you to be on the field and you can't slide it on because of a little grain of dirt. And so there's a little bit of room for you to still slide it on and get what you need and pull it off. And we've actually tightened it up a little bit on this next run, so we'll see. But those are all things that we want to hear about.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll kind of expand on you all as a company. So again, I'm nobody. I message Eric, hey, this is really cool. What size do I need? So then, Eric, you told me how to go through the fitment process, and if you want to touch on that in a minute, you can. So I go through that, and then your response was, cool, I'm going to add that to the website. So right there, I'm literally nobody, and you just responded to me. Cool, let me add it to the website. I'm nobody having this podcast, and you're saying, yeah, let me help you out. I'll kind of explain some of the things that maybe I won't do as well because I wasn't the designer of this product. So I really like that you're down to earth, willing to talk to literally nobody in Western Oregon, Stephen Mangoni. That's just something that I think is really cool. Not a lot of companies are like that. I've had companies where I have their product, I make a review video for them, I send it over to get any input from them if I was accurate, inaccurate, and nobody responds for months. So I just post a video or don't post a video. I just do whatever I want. But it's cool that you've been just so quick with the responses, and that's something that I really like. So if you want to go over that fitment thing, though, please feel free to explain that.
Okay. So yeah, so on our site, it's called sizing chart, and so all of the mount rings that aren't threaded on, all the Knekt mount rings, we have personally verified their fitment on the optic. And so we've listed some models that we haven't tested, and that's why it says contact us. And I can't believe, I think yours was the Athlon Chronos that you were looking, or maybe it was the Midas. We
It
hadn't
was the
fitted.
Midas. Yeah, you guys have the Cronus already.
Okay, so we hadn't fitted the Midas yet, and so that's why I told you, it's like, hey, we developed a downloadable chart that you can get on, and it gives you your measurements if you have a pair of calipers, or you can do what you did and cut out the little ring and verify it, and then give me back feedback. The gold ring Loophole was another customer that asked about it, and so now I got the size for that. So we're not going to list anything that we don't personally verify, but that's just an easier way. You can download it, and it's got measurements, and it's the fit chart has all of the optics that we've fitted. so you can reference, and if there's not one, just get a hold of us. And if obviously if it's not one that we have listed, I'm really interested because then I can add it for other customers. So absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And again, that was something that was just really cool. I don't know. I like companies where the people are down to earth. I don't want to overstep and say you're blue collar, but to me, blue collar people are like, give you the shirt off their back, happy to answer your questions and things like that. And that's the feeling that I get from you guys, even though I think you also have the best digiscoping system out there. So I'm gonna stop being a fanboy now. And if you want to talk about anything else, feel free to go ahead.
No, man, I appreciate the feedback and the nice comments, but customer service is, I guess, inbred in me from Sportsman's Warehouse days. But in reality, I'm smart enough to know that if people aren't buying my product because of our customer service, that's an issue. And so we always want to provide that top level customer service as best we can. And as we grow, things will change, and hopefully that's something that never goes away. But that is one of my biggest focuses, is making sure the customers, their concerns or their comments, because everybody that responds, I'm the one I want to be responding to it. I'm not going to hire it out and give it to somebody just to get standard answers. As we grow, we'll elaborate our FAQs and stuff, but
Yeah.
we just handle the volume. But yeah, I definitely want people to use the system and think, okay, there's going to be a voice, or somebody answer my emails if I have questions. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, before I let you hop off here, I do want to know if you can say, you mentioned other things in the future. Is there anything you can tease the audience with?
no,
That's all right.
and the reason is, man, is so this is my partners, my engineering partners. They were pretty savvy with the patent stuff,
Yeah,
and I wanted to launch 3 years ago, because when we first got the patent pending from the patent office, I'm like, hey, we're whether we get this or not, let's go.
yeah,
And they're like, no, we want to make sure that we're issued a patent, because if we go out and somebody beats us to the punch, then we're gonna be out. And so that was hard to do. And with that being said, we are patented on our system, and we are working on some other patents for future protection. So if those hit, we're gonna make some other splashes in the digiscoping industry with at least magnetically attaching. But our patent covers some other lanes. We have some shooting discussions with some big manufacturers, so for the shooting market. So that might be April, May, June, depending on when prototypes get. But that's, for me, it's really exciting because it's a big company. They've approved the first prototype, but now there's some changes and some things going on. So that'll be, look for that coming down the road if you like shooting. And then just other gear. This product evolved from us using the gear.
yeah.
And a lot of people have the same idea. It's just whether you want to act on it or not. Being an entrepreneur, it's not for the weak. There's a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of freaking all-nighters. But there's some other stuff that we want to incorporate. That's why it's called KaptureGear. So just sign up for the newsletter. We'll tease that stuff out as we get. And the whole reason I gave that long patent story is because once we're protected and ready, then we'll announce the other gear and stuff when we feel like we're solid. So
Yeah, that's definitely really strategic. And you can tell, for those of you that don't know, if somebody's an engineer and they design a product, they will put their patent on the website. Iron Will Bill does it. Is it ADAC, A equipment with his tripods? Something
maybe
AZIAC, I think.
is
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think you have your patent somewhere on your website. So companies with that's an engineer thing, and it's really great because it protects them, like you just said. But it does make the consumer have to wait a little bit longer to get their product. But usually, when I've seen those products, they're pretty stout, they're pretty solid. So that's kind of like you just said. It's a good, and sometimes it can be a little frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that personality, but it's a lot of time and effort, and like I said, it's sacrifice. Again, I don't have the finances, but I have the willpower and the knowledge and the risk taking and all that, and it's a it's more time than anything, and that's more valuable than money. But those are definitely things. If you're looking at starting a product, or you like, hey, I can improve something, you got to evaluate the risks. You want to launch, and hopefully nobody else, can come out and sue you or stop you from making it. So those are things you kind of got to evaluate and go. So that's where we're at with our mindset.
Well, definitely. Well, since this is the Kinesio Outdoors podcast, I study kinesiology. You mentioned doing some mule deer hunting, high country hunting. How do you get in shape for your hunts?
I'm man, I'm 48, dude. I my kid's 14. He's playing high school, and he's got me kind of motivated back into. I gotta when we go on hikes. Like he beat me this summer, and it's never happened. And
Oh,
so
that can't happen
that
again.
was big motivation to start being back in shape. But as I've gotten older, it's just I can't lift the weights as hard, but it's definitely more trying to be just being consistent, man. And it's funny because I love hiking, so I just try and hike a lot. But man, if you got tips and some other things, I'm all ears, man.
I'd be happy to send you some training things that I've developed. I remember when I beat my dad the first time up the trail, and he did not talk to me for quite a few hours after I beat him up the trail.
Yeah, it's it's a sour day. You're excited for your kid, but you're like, holy crap, dude! I've got to get my old butt back in shape.
Oh, my dad, he's an East Pennsylvania guy. He was pretty pissed. It was pretty
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, yeah.
All right,
Definitely
Eric. Well,
motivating.
unless you have anything else you want to talk about with Capture Gear, we'll let you get out of here and get on with your day.
Now, like I say, if you have questions, let us know. I really appreciate your time and letting us come on, or letting me come on and talk. So appreciate it,
Oh,
man.
I appreciate having an expert come in and explain stuff better than I can. So, thank you again, Eric, for jumping on here. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you on the next podcast.